I never imagined that a piece of paper would lead my marriage to fall apart, but that's exactly how it began. Before last Tuesday, I thought I had the life everyone dreams of: a devoted spouse, a quaint townhouse in Boston's Back Bay, and a bright future. My name is Harper. It's incredible how easily perfection can turn into poison. That afternoon, as usual, I was going through the mail when I noticed an ivory envelope. The type of paper that feels like silk between your fingers was pricey. The script, elegant cursive that seemed more like artwork than letters, was what caught my attention, even though it was written to my husband, Ethan. No address for return. Anything interesting? Upstairs in his home office, Finn called. I jumped at the sound of his voice and almost dropped the envelope. Just bills and junk, I answered, hating how my voice wavered. In our 3 years of marriage, I'd never once opened his mail, but something about that envelope made my stomach twist. I heard his footsteps on the stairs and quickly shuffled the envelope to the bottom of the pile. Ethan appeared in the doorway, looking exactly like the successful businessman he was. Perfectly pressed shirt, designer watch, that confident smile that had first drawn me to him at a mutual friend's gallery opening. "You okay? You look pale," he said, crossing the room to kiss my forehead. "Just tired. The bookstore was crazy today." I forced a smile, acutely aware of the envelope burning a hole in the stack of mail. "How about pizza for dinner?" He checked his watch. "Wait, sweetheart. Mother's hosting that charity thing at the house, remember? We need to be there by 7. "Of course," I said, trying not to sound too weary. Another Caldwell family obligation I'd forgotten about. Eleanor's latest fundraiser. Probably because I'd been trying to forget about it. My mother-in-law had a way of making me feel like a charity case, even after 3 years. "Right," I said. "Let me just change." "Actually, why don't you skip this one?" Finn interrupted, loosening his tie. "You've been working so hard lately. Take the evening off. Relax." Something in his tone made me look up sharply. He'd never suggested I skip a family event before. In fact, Eleanor would usually call personally to ensure my attendance. "Are you sure? Won't your mother mind?" I asked. "I'll handle Mother," he smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "It's just boring donor stuff anyway. You'd be miserable." I watched him head upstairs to change. That ivory envelope suddenly felt like a lead weight in my hands. When I heard the shower start, I did something I never thought I would do. I opened it. Inside was a single card, the same creamy color as the envelope. The message was simple: same time, same place. "Don't keep me waiting again." My hands shook as I read it twice more. The implications were clear, but my brain refused to process them. This had to be a mistake, a mix-up, anything but what it seemed. I heard the shower stop and quickly resealed the envelope as best I could, slipping it back into the pile. When Ethan came down 20 minutes later in his best suit, I was sitting on the couch pretending to read. "Sure you don't mind?" he asked, grabbing his keys. "Go," I said, amazed at how steady my voice sounded. "Have fun." He kissed me goodbye, and I watched through the window as he pulled away in his Mercedes. As soon as his taillights disappeared around the corner, I grabbed my phone and pulled up my best friend Lily's number. My finger hovered over the call button. The thing about perfect lives is that they're like beautiful houses. Sometimes the prettiest facades hide the worst damage. I had a choice to make. I could pretend I never saw that note and keep living in my perfect house of cards, or I could start looking for cracks in the foundation. I pressed call. Lily's words from our late-night phone call still echoed in my head. Trust your gut, Harper. When have your instincts ever been wrong? The problem was, my gut was telling me things I didn't want to hear. You're up early, Ethan commented, adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror. There was a slight edge to his voice, probably because I'd barely spoken 2 words to him since he'd returned from Eleanor's charity event last night. Couldn't sleep. I sipped my coffee, studying him over the rim of my mug. How was the fundraiser? Same as always. Mother cornered every wealthy widow in Boston. He checked his phone, frowning. Speaking of Mother, she wants us over for dinner tonight. My stomach clenched. Tonight? But it's Wednesday. We never do family dinner on Wednesdays. She's insisting. Says she has something important to discuss. He wouldn't meet my eyes, still staring at his phone. I told her we'd be there at 7. You didn't think to check with me first. I finally looked up, irritation flashing across my face. Since when do you have other plans on Wednesday nights? He was becoming defensive. That's not the point, Ethan. I set my mug down harder than necessary. You've been making all these decisions lately without even asking me. The charity event last night, now this dinner. What's really bothering you, Harper? He stepped closer, his cologne different from his usual, making me feel slightly nauseated. This doesn't feel like it's about dinner with Mother. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something in his expression shifted. I have to go early. Meeting with whom? The words slipped out before I could stop them. He paused at the door, jaw tightening. Clients, Harper. That's what businessmen do. They meet with clients. After he left, I sat at our kitchen island, staring at nothing. 3 years ago, I'd fallen in love with Ethan's confidence, his easy charm. Now those same qualities felt like walls keeping me out. My phone lit up with a text from Eleanor. Darling, looking forward to dinner tonight. Wear something appropriate. I could practically hear her voice dripping with polite disdain. In Eleanor's world, appropriate meant designer labels and family heirlooms, not the vintage dresses I loved from my bookstore salary days. I was about to reply when another text came through, this one from Ethan's Aunt Vivian. Coffee at Lardis in an hour. Need your book recommendations. Winky face. Vivian had always been different from the rest of the Caldwells. Where Eleanor wielded sophistication like a weapon, Vivian's warmth felt genuine. Plus, she was the family gossip. If anyone knew what was really going on, it would be her. Lardis was busy when I arrived, but I spotted Vivian immediately. Her silver hair elegant against her coral blazer. She waved me over. 2 lats were already waiting. Harper, darling. She hugged me tight, then held me at arm's length. You look tired. Trouble sleeping? Just work stress. I lied, settling into my chair. She stirred her latte. Nothing to do with Eleanor's sudden Wednesday dinner plans. I tried to keep my face neutral. You know about that? Oh, I know many things. She leaned forward, lowering her voice, like the fact that Celeste Moore is back in town. The name hit me like a slap. Celeste Moore, the gorgeous brunette who'd been at every Caldwell event until about 4 years ago, right before I met Ethan. She'd vanished so completely, I'd almost forgotten about her. What does that have to do with anything? Vivian's eyes softened with something that looked dangerously like pity. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. But if I were you, I'd pay very close attention at dinner tonight. My phone buzzed, another text from Ethan. Sorry, sweetheart. Emergency meeting. Running late. Don't wait up. I showed Vivian the message. She read it, then reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Remember, Harper, in this family, nothing is ever quite what it seems. As I drove home, my mind raced. The ivory envelope, the mysterious meetings, Celeste's return. It felt like pieces of a puzzle were floating just out of reach, waiting to form a picture I wasn't sure I wanted to see. 7 o'clock couldn't come fast enough. Eleanor's dinner turned out to be anything but dinner. I sat alone at her mahogany dining table for 45 minutes before my mother-in-law finally emerged from her study, perfectly coiffed and utterly unapologetic. "Oh, darling, has Ethan not arrived yet?" She didn't wait for my answer, pouring herself a generous glass of wine. "He just texted. Caught up at the office." Such a dedicated worker, my son. I gripped my water glass tighter. "You said this dinner was important, that you had something to discuss." "Did I?" Eleanor settled into her chair, studying me over the rim of her wine glass. "Well, since you're here, we might as well talk about the Foundation's upcoming gala. The seating arrangements are proving quite challenging." My phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan. "Sorry, sweetheart. Emergency meeting. Running late. Don't wait up." Something snapped inside me. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I need to use the restroom." Instead of heading to the powder room downstairs, I climbed the familiar stairs to Ethan's old bedroom, now his home office when he worked from his mother's house. The door was unlocked. They never expected me to snoop. I was the good daughter-in-law, after all. The grateful scholarship girl who'd married up. I found what I was looking for in his suit jacket pocket, hanging carelessly over his chair. A hotel keycard for the Four Seasons. The same hotel mentioned in hushed conversations I'd pretended not to hear in texts I'd glimpsed over his shoulder. My hands shook as I took a photo of the key card with my phone, slipping it back into his pocket. Something else caught my eye. A receipt from the hotel's restaurant. 2 cocktails. Dinner for 2. Dated last night during Eleanor's charity event. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly moved to the hallway bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. When I returned downstairs, Eleanor was on the phone. "Yes, darling, she's still here," she was saying. "No, I haven't. Of course not." She noticed me and quickly ended the call. "That was Ethan," she said smoothly. "He's worried about you driving home alone so late. Shall I have Harrison bring the car around?" I smiled, channeling every lesson in poise she'd ever given me. "Actually, I think I'll wait for Ethan at the hotel." Her perfectly plucked eyebrows rose slightly. "Hotel? The Four Seasons? That's where his emergency meeting is, right?" The flash of panic in her eyes confirmed everything. 20 minutes later, I sat in my car across from the hotel, watching the entrance. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to drive away, pretend I'd never seen the key card or the receipt, pretend I didn't know exactly what I'd find if I walked through those doors. Then I saw them. Finn emerged first, his tie loosened, hair slightly mussed. She followed a minute later, Celeste Moore, exactly as Vivian had warned. She was even more beautiful than I remembered from those old family photos. Her dark hair falling in perfect waves, her red dress a splash of color against the night. I watched them share a lingering kiss before parting ways. I watched my husband straighten his tie, check his reflection in a window, and head toward his car. I watched him become the man. I thought I knew. Again, my phone buzzed with a text from him. "Meeting running longer than expected. Staying at Mother's tonight." I started my car, my vision blurring with tears I refused to let fall. As I pulled away from the curb, I caught sight of Eleanor's driver, Harrison, parked discreetly across the street. Of course, she'd had me followed. Of course, she'd known I drove straight to Lily's apartment. My mind was already racing ahead to what came next, because this wasn't just about Ethan's betrayal anymore. This was about 3 years of condescension, of subtle manipulations, of being made to feel grateful for crumbs of affection from the mighty Caldwell family. They thought I was weak, compliant, the perfect, quiet wife who would accept whatever scraps of truth they deigned to throw her way. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Lily's apartment became my war room. After 3 sleepless nights of planning, I finally made the call I'd been dreading. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Harper Monroe, it's been what, 10 years? Hello, Jack. I twisted the wedding ring on my finger. I need your help. Jack Lawson had been the smartest kid in our high school until he dropped out senior year to help support his family. Now he was one of Boston's most discreet private investigators, and more importantly, he had no connections to the Caldwell family. Meet me at Cafe Luna in an hour, he said, and Harper, bring cash. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. Jack hadn't changed much, still had that sharp look in his eyes that made you feel like he could see right through you. He listened without interrupting as I laid out everything. The letter, the Hotel Celeste. You sure you want to pull this thread? He asked when I finished. Rich families like the Caldwells, they've got ways of making problems disappear. I'm already disappearing, I said. I need to know the truth. He nodded, sliding a contract across the table. 3 days, $5,000. I'll find out what your husband's really up to. I handed him an envelope of cash, nearly my entire savings from before my marriage. There's something else I need you to look into. Celeste Moore's history with the family. She vanished 4 years ago, right before I met Ethan. I need to know why. Careful, Jack warned. Sometimes the truth's worse than not knowing. I was about to respond when my phone buzzed. Ethan, where are you? Mother's trying to reach you about the charity board meeting. I texted back that I was at work, the lie coming easily now. When I looked up, Jack was studying me. You're still living with him. If I leave now, I'll never know what really happened. I stood up. 3 days. That evening, I played my part perfectly. I sat through dinner with Ethan, nodding at his stories about work. I didn't flinch when he kissed my cheek, even though his cologne still carried traces of her perfume. But at midnight, my phone lit up with a text from Jack. Found something. Meeting tomorrow. Same place. 8:00 a.m. Bring your laptop. When I arrived at the cafe the next morning, Jack was already there, looking grim. Before I show you this, he said, you need to understand something. This goes deeper than just an affair. He pulled out his tablet, showing me financial records, emails, photos. My hands shook as I scrolled through them. Celeste Moore didn't just disappear 4 years ago, Jack explained. She was paid to disappear. $2 million transferred from a Caldwell family trust, the same trust that's been bleeding money ever since. I don't understand. Look at the dates. He pointed to a series of transactions. The payments started again 3 months ago, right around the time she came back. My stomach lurched as the pieces started falling into place. She's blackmailing them. And your husband's been embezzling from his own family's foundation to pay her off. Jack leaned back. The question is, what does she know that's worth destroying a marriage over? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. A text from Vivian. Need to see you. Come to my house now. I showed Jack the message. He frowned. Be careful. The aunt might seem friendly, but she's still a Caldwell. I gathered my things, my mind racing. Send everything to my secure email, and Jack, keep digging into what happened 4 years ago. Whatever Celeste is holding over them. That's when it started. As I drove to Vivian's, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tight they hurt. I'd wanted the truth, but now the truth felt like a weapon. One that could destroy not just my marriage, but the entire Caldwell dynasty. The question was, did I have the courage to pull the trigger? Vivian's house felt different in the rain. The Georgian mansion I'd visited countless times for family brunches now loomed like something from a Gothic novel. I almost turned around when I saw Eleanor's car in the circular drive. Inside, voices drifted from Vivian's study. I recognized Eleanor's precise tone, then Vivian's sharper reply. She deserves to know. Know what? I asked from the doorway. They turned, startled. Eleanor's face was ashen, missing its usual perfect makeup. Vivian sat behind her desk, holding what looked like an old photograph. Harper. Eleanor smoothed her skirt, recovering quickly. This is a private family matter. I'm family, I said, my words tasting bitter. Or have you forgotten that while planning your son's secret meetings with Celeste? Eleanor's eyes widened. Vivian made a sound between a laugh and a sigh. Well, Vivian said, that gives us some explanation. She held out the photograph. Though not all of it, the picture was old, yellowed at the edges. In it, a younger Eleanor stood with a man who wasn't Ethan's father. They were both beaming at a baby in Eleanor's arms. That's not Richard, I said, meeting Ethan's father. My first love, Eleanor said quietly, and Celeste's father. The room tilted. I gripped the back of a chair. Ethan doesn't know. Vivian added, neither does Celeste. Their father died before either was born. There, my voice failed. Ethan and Celeste are half-siblings. Eleanor's voice cracked. I gave her up for adoption. It was what everyone expected back then. Unmarried mother, prominent family. My phone buzzed. Another text from Jack. Found adoption records. Call immediately. Does Ethan know? I asked, already knowing the answer. About the money, the blackmail. Eleanor's face hardened. Blackmail? What are you talking about? I pulled up the financial records on my phone, hands shaking as I showed them. $2 million, 4 years ago. More payments starting 3 months ago. Your son has been embezzling from the foundation to pay her off. Vivian stood so quickly, her chair toppled. That's impossible, she said. I handle all the foundation accounts, not the private trust. The one Richard set up for Ethan before he died, I said. Eleanor sank into a chair, her aristocratic posture crumbling. Oh God, she whispered. She must have found out somehow. The adoption records. But Ethan's payments started recently. Why would he? I pressed. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Ethan. Where are you? We need to talk. Found something in your email. A cold chill shot through my veins. I'd left my laptop open at home, logged into the email where Jack had sent everything. I have to go. I turned, but Vivian caught my arm. Harper, wait. There's more you need to know about Celeste, about what really happened 4 years ago. Let her go, Eleanor said, her voice hollow. She's already decided what kind of story this is, haven't you, dear? The wealthy family's dark secret, the faithless husband. I pulled away from Vivian's grip. You're wrong. This stopped being about revenge the moment I saw that photograph. Now it's about survival. Rain pounded against the windows as I drove home, my mind racing. Siblings. The word echoed like a curse. Did they know? Was that why Ethan had been paying her? Or was there something even darker hidden in the Caldwell family's perfect facade? My phone kept buzzing. Ethan, Jack, Vivian. I ignored them all. Because now I understood what I had to do. This wasn't just about exposing the truth anymore. It was about protecting Ethan from Celeste, from his mother's lies, and maybe even from himself. But first, I had to get home before he finished reading those emails. The lights were on in our townhouse when I pulled up. Through the window, I could see Ethan pacing in his study, phone pressed to his ear. I took a deep breath and reached for the door handle. Time to find out what kind of story this really was. The front door felt heavier than usual as I pushed it open. I stood in his study doorway. My laptop was open on his desk behind him. His face held an expression I'd never seen before, something between rage and fear. Were you ever going to tell me? His voice was deadly quiet. About Celeste? I stepped inside, keeping my distance. Were you? He laughed, a harsh sound that made me flinch. About hiring a private investigator. About digging through my family's history. About. He stopped, running a hand through his hair. Do you have any idea what you've done? I know everything, Ethan, I said, my voice tight. About the payments. About Eleanor. About. Stop. He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbing my arm. You need to listen very carefully. Celeste is dangerous. The money wasn't for what you think. Let go of me. I twisted free, backing toward the door. She is your sister, Ethan. Your half-sister. All the color drained from his face. What? My phone buzzed. Jack again. I ignored it. Eleanor told me everything. The adoption, the cover-up. No. Finn shook his head. No, that's not. Celeste isn't my sister. She's Richard's daughter, the one nobody talks about. His laugh was bitter now. Mother didn't give her up. His first wife did, when she found out he was leaving her for Mother. My phone kept buzzing. Finally, I answered. Jack, not now. Harper, get out of there. Jack's voice was urgent. Celeste just left Eleanor's house. She had a gun. The front door burst open. Before I could respond, Celeste stood there, mascara running down her cheeks, looking nothing like the polished woman from the hotel. You couldn't leave it alone, could you? She wasn't looking at me, but at Ethan. Had to play the noble brother, protecting everyone's secrets. Celeste, don't. Ethan started. Shut up. She pulled the gun from her purse. Tell her. Tell your perfect little wife what really happened 4 years ago. My heart hammered against my ribs. Ethan. I found my voice. I found out what Father did, he said quietly. How he paid off Celeste's mother to disappear with her. How he'd erased all trace of his first family to marry Mother. I tried to make it right by paying me off. Celeste's hand shook. By making me disappear, just like he did. By protecting you. The gunshot. Richard was still alive then. If he'd known you discovered the truth. Truth? She laughed wildly. The truth is you're just like him. Throwing money at problems until they go away. Well, I won't go away this time. Everything happened at once. Celeste raised the gun. Finn lunged forward. I screamed. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Finn stumbled, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers. Celeste stared at the gun like she'd never seen it before. Oh God, she whispered, Oh God. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone must have heard the shot. Celeste turned and ran, leaving the gun on the floor. I knelt beside Ethan, pressing my hands against his wound. Stay still. Help is coming. Harper, his voice was weak. I'm sorry. I thought I could fix everything without anyone getting hurt. Like father? Like son? I said bitterly. He caught my wrist with his good hand. The money. It wasn't just payments. I was helping her build a new life away from all this. I couldn't tell anyone, not even you. If Mother had found out about Richard's first marriage while he was alive. The sirens grew closer. Through the window, I saw Eleanor's car screech to a halt outside. In the chaos that followed, paramedics, police, Eleanor's hysteria, I felt strangely calm. Because I finally understood. There are no heroes or villains in family stories, just people trying to protect the ones they love, usually in all the wrong ways. The question was, what would protecting myself look like now? The hospital waiting room felt like limbo. 3 hours had passed since they'd taken Ethan into surgery, and still no word. Eleanor paced while Vivian watched her with tired eyes. I sat apart from them, clutching my phone, waiting for news about Celeste. Jack's text came just after midnight. Found her. 4 seasons. Same room as before. I stood up. Eleanor's head snapped toward me. Where are you going? To finish this, I said. Harper, don't, Vivian warned. Let the police handle it. The police don't know what we know, I snapped. About Richard. About any of it. Eleanor blocked my path. You've done enough damage. Me? I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet room. You built this house of lies, Eleanor. All of you. I just lived in it. The 4 Seasons lobby was deserted when I arrived. The night clerk recognized me from my previous visit, his eyes widening. Room 742, I said. Call the police in 10 minutes. The elevator ride felt endless. When I reached her door, I didn't knock. I had Ethan's key card, the one that had started all this. Celeste sat on the bed, still in her blood-stained clothes. Come to arrest me. Her voice was hollow. No, I said, closing the door behind me. I came to understand. Understand what? How it feels to be erased. I took a deep breath. To watch your father build a perfect new family while pretending you never existed. Ethan tried to help you. Help me. She stood, swaying slightly. He paid me to stay quiet, just like Richard did with my mother. The Caldwell solution. Throw money at the problem until it goes away. Then why come back? Because I wanted them to see me. She took another drink, her hands shaking. Really see me. Not as some dirty secret, but as family. By threatening Ethan, by shooting him. I never meant to hurt him, she whispered, sinking back onto the bed. I just wanted to belong somewhere. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Vivian's voice. Harper, are you in there? I opened the door. Vivian entered, followed by Eleanor. The 3 Caldwell women, facing their prodigal daughter. Hello, Mother, Celeste said to Eleanor, her tone almost mocking. Or should I say stepmother? Eleanor flinched. I didn't know about you, about Richard's first marriage. Not until after he died. But Ethan knew, Vivian added quietly. He found the papers in Richard's study and started tracking you down. To protect you, I corrected, from Eleanor finding out while Richard was alive. From the scandal that would have destroyed both families. Now Celeste looked at Eleanor. Now that everyone knows, The sirens grew louder. Eleanor straightened, every inch the Caldwell matriarch. "Now we stop hiding," she said, her voice cold but resolute. "All of us. Ethan's out of surgery," Vivian said. "He's asking for both of you." Celeste's eyes met mine. "Why would he want to see me?" "Because he's the only one who never saw you as a secret," I said softly. "He saw you as family." The sirens grew closer. Celeste stared at my outstretched hand, tears cutting through her mascara. "I can't take it back," she whispered. "Any of it." "No," Eleanor said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "But we can go forward together." When the police arrived, they found 4 women sitting quietly in a hotel room, telling the truth for the first time in decades. The whole truth. About Richard, about the money, about a family built on secrets and shame. Later, as dawn broke over Boston, I sat by Ethan's hospital bed, watching him sleep. My phone buzzed with a text from Lily. "You okay?" I thought about revenge, about justice, about the thin line between protecting and destroying the ones we love, about how sometimes the greatest act of courage isn't exposing the truth, but choosing what to do with it once it's exposed. "No," I texted back, "but I will be. We all will be." 6 months can change everything. The Boston winter had melted into spring, and I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by unpacked boxes. In the morning light, on my coffee table lay the final divorce papers, waiting for my signature. My phone buzzed, a text from Celeste. "Coffee? The usual place." These meetings had become our strange ritual over the past few months, ever since she finished her court-mandated therapy. The charges had been reduced after Ethan refused to testify against her, another Caldwell family solution. But maybe this time, the right one. The cafe was quiet when I arrived. Celeste sat at our regular table, 2 lads waiting. She looked different now, softer somehow, without the sharp edges of revenge to hold her together. "Eleanor asked about you at the foundation meeting," she said as I sat down. "She misses you, in her Eleanor way." "How's that going? Working with her?" I asked. "Surprisingly well," Celeste said. "Turns out we're both good at organizing charity galas." She smiled faintly, though she still corrects my table settings. The foundation had been Eleanor's idea, transforming the private trust into a scholarship fund for children of broken families, a way to turn decades of secrets into something healing. "And Ethan? Better?" I asked. "Physical therapy is helping. He's talking about moving to New York, starting fresh." She hesitated. "He asks about you too." I touched the manila envelope in my bag containing the divorce papers. "I know. He called yesterday." "Are you going to sign?" Celeste asked. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Jack. "Got the job, starting Monday at the new agency. Thanks for the reference. Life's funny." I showed Celeste the message. "A year ago, I hired Jack to expose your family's secrets. Now he's working for your security firm. Our family," she corrected gently, "whether you sign those papers or not." The bell above the door chimed. Vivian walked in, spotting us immediately. She'd been the bridge between all the broken pieces, somehow knowing exactly when to push and when to let things heal on their own. "I hoped I'd find you both here," she said, sitting down. "Eleanor is planning a summer party at the house, proper one, with both families invited." All the families. I thought about the past 6 months. The therapy sessions, the careful reconstructions of truth from lies, the slow building of something new from the ashes of what we burned down. "I should go," I said, standing. I have some papers to sign. Celeste caught my hand. Whatever you decide, thank you for showing us there's more than one way to be family. At home, I opened the divorce papers again. Behind them was another envelope, the one Ethan had left at my door last week. Inside was a single photograph. All of us at Christmas Eve, including Celeste's mother, whom Eleanor had finally tracked down. We looked messy, imperfect, real. On the back, Ethan had written, "Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes it means holding on differently." I picked up my pen, understanding finally that this wasn't an ending, it was a transformation. The Caldwell family would always be part of my story, not as the perfect facade I'd married into, but as the beautifully flawed reality we'd all discovered together. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Eleanor. "Thursday is the foundation board meeting. Your seat is still unoccupied." I first looked at the divorce documents, and then I looked at the Christmas picture. Finding the fortitude to choose both, to let go of what was while making room for what could be, can often be more difficult than deciding between right and evil. I took up my pen and started writing. Not just my name, but also my own conclusion, or even a start. It might be challenging to distinguish between families like ours,